Hey, welcome back to another episode of Uncommon Faith. My name is LaFlower, one of your hosts, and I am so super excited that you decided to tune in with us tonight. Of course, if you are watching a replay, even if you're catching it live, definitely like us on Facebook, YouTube, guys. Share the freaking broadcast, right? Because we're going to be talking about some amazing things tonight, and I have, of course, one of my friends, well, she's just a co-host of the show, Regina Brown. You know her, you love her. She's absolutely amazing. And then I have one of my very special friends, Miss Rainbow Huff out of Nashville, Tennessee. Guys, this lady is absolutely amazing. And then, of course, we're going to rock it out with our segments of I Know God is Real, because we're going to have some chat and talk about some things with Rainbow. And then we're going to jump into our sister check. It's going to talk about OnlyFans. So I am so geeked up. No, I haven't had any coffee yet or any chai tea. I'm just excited because we have some awesome things coming up here at Uncommon Faith. And so let's get it started, right? So Regina, come on in the room. Come on in the room, as Miss Tabitha Brown would say.
What's up? What's up?
What's up? Yeah. Happy Tuesday. How you feeling, sis?
Hey, my forecast today is sunny, so I'm feeling pretty good.
I know, right? That's right? And I always tell you about one of my favorite poets. He always says today was a good day. And so today was a good day, right?
Yes, it was. Happy to be back for another episode of Uncommon Faith.
I know. Can you believe that April is already almost gone? I was like,
not at all.
What? Like, I have all these plans. I'm like, the first quarter I've been gone. Now we're already into the second quarter of the year. Like, whoa. It's freaking me out. And then, Riley, she's going to be 6 months.
Wow.
Like next week. I'm like, who just had a baby? I did. Oh my, but I am feeling great. I don't feel like I am a mother of 8, physically had 7 children. I just, I really feel good. God is doing some amazing things. And that's why, I love this show, Uncommon Faith, because we get to rock it out every Tuesday and we get to talk to some amazing people. So guys, as I mentioned earlier, Regina not a guest of the show. Like I said, she's a co-host now, official tissue. So guys, our very first guest of the show, she is a true sister friend. She's worked with Regina and I and served in the Worthy tribe, because we all are worthy. Throw your W's up. I can't. There we go. I had to have W. Throw your W's up, because we worthy. I should have wore some of my Worthy gear tonight. I should have read Worthy. But I got my Taken shirt on, because I'm taken. I'm a, bride of Christ, taken in the building. But guys, Rainbow is absolutely amazing. I met her, like I said, serving in our Worthy tribe. And she just became a true sister friend to me. She is an intercessor. When I tell you this girl will pray the walls of Jericho down again, she will do it again. She will help some mountains move, guys. She is an author. She is a mother. She is a professional. And this chick just launched her business. And we talked about this. And I was encouraging her, girl, you got to jump out there and do this. So without further ado, Rainbow, where you at?
Come on in the room, Rainbow.
Rainbow in the building.
Hey.
Hey, love, how are you? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. I'm good. Kind of like you all were mentioning, I can't believe we're already at the end of April. It's like, where is the time going?
Yes. It's bananas. But Rainbow, please take a moment to tell our Uncommon Faith family, a little bit about yourself, where you're located, what you do for a living, and what, some of the things that you're working on and that you're passionate about.
Yeah. So again, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate being here with you all. Love the show, love everything that you're doing. So I do live in Nashville, Tennessee. I, by day, work as a corporate healthcare professional. As you mentioned, LaFlower, I do have an 8-year-old son, so he is my little BFF. We've actually been together throughout this entire time of lockdown and quarantine. He's been in virtual school, so I'm now fully aware that the Lord did not call me to teach elementary age students. But I, as you mentioned, I'm an intercessor. I love to pray. I love to pray for others. When we're not in a global pandemic, I do a lot of work within the prison ministry. So really enjoy doing that. I do have a book, 31 Devotions for the Empowered Woman. So it's a quick read, some short devotions with some spoken affirmations at the end. And then, as you mentioned, I recently launched purposeconnections.com. And that is my new company where I'm doing a lot of strategic consulting, lots of empowerment sessions, and just lots of good things.
I love it. Awesome. Now, tell me, what was, I guess, because a lot of women have, or let's just not say women, a lot of us have, that hesitation when it comes to, using our skills and monetizing them. Regina, we talked about that. So Rainbow, what was it for you? Like, did you feel that hesitation? Wink, wink. Did you feel that hesitation? And what helped you overcome that?
I felt that hesitation. We've had these discussions many times. I think for me, I am definitely a creature of habit. So I've always had, this corporate role that I like corporate America, right? It's been good to me. I enjoy what I do, but two things. So I did a mentorship with my pastor, and one of the things he talked about was scale. And he said, some of you are focused on your annual salary. Really, you could be making your annual salary every month if you monetize the gift.
Come on, pastor, come on.
And so that never really left me. But I get in my head a lot, right? I'm a PM, so I'm always over analyzing, and I've always thought, oh, it's so hard. I don't have time. How can I balance? But I did an event with one of my friends who has a nonprofit back in January. And there was a lady on the call who, she was like, oh my goodness, this was amazing. There's so many things that I would like for you to do with our young girls. I'd like to learn more about your rates. And at that point, I'm like, and so she called me when we get off the phone, and she said, you need to start your company. She was like, people are paying good money for the services that you offer to people who are not half as good as you. She's like, you really have to start doing that now. And so I prayed about it, and it all came very easy. And within a month, I had booked several jobs and really just started getting comfortable, leaning into, yes, operating in my gifts, but also monetizing those gifts as well.
Oh my goodness. Regina, weren't we just talking about this last week?
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, we just had this conversation. And so it's awesome to have you come on and validate some of the things that we were saying, and that, it's okay for you to be paid for your gifting. You were given gifts and talents. We get talents and we're supposed to go out and do something with them, right? So, right. That's absolutely awesome. So congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think another thing too that I think about a lot, I think women, but in particular Black women, we've heard it talked about a lot. We have to start getting comfortable with the thought of luxury, right? And premium, and not feeling like we need to discredit or completely discount our services when we know that these things are being offered in other spaces and people aren't blinking an eye. So that was something that I had to really push myself outside of my comfort zone on. LaFlower, I'm a giver, right? It's very natural for me to just give. So I'm still working on that. It's a newly launched business, but I'm gonna lean into it.
I know you have to, because there are people that are waiting on you, your services. You're flat out amazing at what you do. And so you're right. A lot of us do struggle with, we talk about it. We pray about it. We preach about that luxury lifestyle. We're like, we want that. If our daddy is the king, then we should be living as royalty, right? But the truth is, when it comes down to it, I think it's a question of, it goes back to worthiness, in a sense, right? It's like, am I worthy to sit at the king's table? Am I worthy to have my name as a place setting at the king's table? Because most of us will expect, we'll preach and say that we want to be at the king's table, but in reality, our mindset is still in the kitchen.
Oh, now that's a word.
Right?
That's a word.
We're more comfortable hiding in the kitchen and making sure that everybody else sitting at the king's table is good. And sometimes we won't even eat, right? We won't even eat, or we'll eat after everybody else is fat full.
That's right. And we'll eat what's left over.
Right. But we have to get out of this martyr mindset, right? We got to get out of this martyr mindset, especially as women. And, I know African American women, but we work with women of all races, and what I'm finding is a lot of them do the same thing. But what I learned, one of the key things that helped me come out of that mindset, and Regina I've been in this, like, Flower is going to live a certain type of way, but when it came to my business, it was different. It's like, but why do you think we have that disconnect? It's like, oh, we want to have the finest this, we got to look we want to feel a certain way, but why? How can we get from the kitchen to having a seat at the main table?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a mindset shift. And I think it also is, sometimes I think it's like a cultural thing, right? And, a lot of us are, we're breaking generational curses. And so you have people who are saying, well, who told you to do that? And what makes you think you can do this? And why do you need all of that? And so sometimes I think there's almost like this feeling of, am I doing too much? But we know that it's never too much when we're dealing with our Heavenly Father. And so one of the things that I'm trying to be very intentional about is, speaking those things that are not as if they are so, and being comfortable with the things that I want, right? Because luxury may look different to the three of us, right? But not feeling uncomfortable about saying, hey, I know the quality of my work. I know how good I am at what I do. This is my price. And if it's too much, it's okay, right? People often talk about how you don't see like a Rolls Royce on sale. They don't go on discount, right? Because the people who can pay for them come and pay for them, and they don't blink an eye. So I think that's just something that I'll have to continue to lean into. And it sounds like, we all have an opportunity to do that.
Right. And they take pride in paying for it, right?
Yeah.
They take pride in paying. Some people don't even want the Rolls. Like, I don't even want to use Rolls Royce. I don't want a discounted Rolls Royce, because if I wanted a discounted car, then I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have done what I had to do in order to be here, in order to go drop a bag and go get that. Now, but you're right. Luxury looks different for different people, because, Marcus and I are reading a book called The Everyday Millionaire.
Oh yeah.
You have that one?
I actually met him at one of Dave Ramsey's conferences. He signed my book.
He's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And I like how he debunks so many myths that so many people have when it comes to millionaire mindset or millionaire status, right?
What is it, like 70% of millionaires did not come from money, weren't gifted money? They're literally everyday millionaires.
Teachers were some of the educators, were some of the main millionaires, and they say that they're like that because they learn to live a more modest lifestyle, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is like the culture of teachers, right? You're gonna have some crafted t-shirts on. You're not trying to go up in a classroom with some Gucci on. I would. And then you don't, a lot of teachers, they only vacation in the summertime, right? So you're not trying to take trips all throughout the year. Cause I know my mom was an educator, and it was frowned upon, for her to call in, because it's like, you get the whole summer off. Like, what are you doing? Right. But that's so true that, luxury looks different. And we got to debunk some of these myths to help adjust the mindset. And, just like with houses, right? A lot of millionaires have stayed in their first house. Now that was one of the ones. What about you guys? That when you learn that fact, it's like, did that blow your mind? Because it definitely blew mine.
Yeah, well, I had a call once. It was not just a one-on-one call, but it was a huge company call, and one of the executive team members, someone who is probably a multimillionaire multiple times over, he talked about the fact that he and his wife still lived in the home that they raised their children in. And this is somebody who could probably purchase 1,000 really nice homes. And so when I heard him say that, there was something that sort of clicked that said, so why do we feel like we always have to sort of raise our level of living if our income is increasing, right? And that's kind of one of the things I try to be intentional about. You know, we were stuck in the house most of 2020, so we weren't going out to eat like we usually do. You know, you aren't going on trips, you're not shopping. So I've tried to really be intentional about maintaining that type of living for the near future, because we survived, right? We didn't miss out on anything. I mean, I miss my trips, but you know, just thinking about things differently, because I do think that in order to maintain longevity and success, you have to shift your mindset when it comes to a business and what success looks like for you, right? Success for some people may be the 8-bedroom home, the 6 bathrooms, the 15 cars, right? For some people, it may be the freedom to travel when they want, not have to take PTO and, you know, send their kids to a good school. So I really think not comparing ourselves to the world and what the world is doing. We know social media is always glorifying the success story and want people to think that you can skip the process. You cannot skip the process, right?
Not at all.
And so just being, you know, sure about what success looks like for you.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that is,
go ahead.
That's so true, because I think when it comes to the mindset overall, that plays a part in what you do with the funds when you receive them, right? So when you go from one income bracket to a higher income bracket, I think sometimes purchasing all of the, you know, name brand this and huge that and fancy this is sometimes more for other people than it is for yourself, because you want others to know that, hey, I've reached this status, I can do it, you know, not that it's necessarily the best thing for you, and it's going to allow you to have that, you know, enjoy those monetary values long term, right? But one thing I've noticed is that most individuals that are really, really wealthy live a very modest lifestyle.
Oh, for sure.
I think when you get to the point where you know, like, you have money, you don't have to prove to anybody that you have money. Right. And so you know, I can dress down. I don't have to have name brand this. I can rock and roll in a Honda and be okay. Yeah. And like you said, still live in my first home and be good with that, because I know I got my money. It ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But when we trying to live up to certain statuses,
we put ourselves right. We put ourselves, especially like you guys said, it's a culture thing. It's a mindset thing. You know, one of the things that I'm learning from Marcus, since, you know, he's like, once he turned 40, he's like, I gotta, you know, I don't know what he's doing, but he's like changing his whole image on me. He, you know, sold hundreds of J's. I'm like, the whole collection almost gone, y'all. But
priorities change.
His priorities change, right? He's like, I still want, you know, he still has a sneaker business, but his personal image is shifting, because he was reading, and he's reading so much more. And there was one quote in the book where a gentleman said that it was like a stylist or something like that. And he says what's known is already understood. It doesn't have to be stated.
Come on, that's
and
it.
He was talking about, like, I want to say some brand or something like that. But, you know, like, you're able, when you know quality, right? Yeah. And you know quality, you're like, oh my gosh, that's that. Or, you know, Marcus ordered these shoes, and I know I'm going to jack them up, but it was like Beckett Seminon or something like that. But it was like a one-piece leather shoe, and the shoe is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful. And it was a high value shoe, but the average person may be like, what are you doing? But I like what that man said. He said, what's known is already understood. It doesn't have to be stated. I remember we were at an all white yacht party, I think it was in South Florida. And the owner of the company, he was doing a training session with us. And I was just, always pay attention. And he had on this amazing linen suit, this short suit. It was white, but very small stitching had his initials in there.
Wow.
And I was like, but a lot of other people, they had the big Gucci summer belts on. No offense, because I didn't bought the big Gucci belts, things like that. But it's like what's already known, it's understood, and doesn't have to be stated. I'm like, how much did that suit cost him? And he had his initials in there, right? So what do you guys think when it comes to fashion and stuff?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Shannon that talks about this a lot, just in various calls. Rich is loud and wealthy is silent, right? Like the need to be seen. And to your point, like, I think it's amazing to be able to buy those brand name things and do those types of things if you want, live your best life. It becomes a problem when that defines who you are. And now you're trying to keep up with this image that you can't afford. And nobody cares anyway, because, when you think about the spirit and just the presence, somebody can walk in a room in a tank top from the dollar store, right? Some cut off jeans, and still hold more presence than the person who's walking around in a full blown, name brand suit. And so I think it's just, you have to have that balance, right? Like, what are you doing for? If I like nice things, right? Sometimes I splurge, but I don't let it control me. And I think that's where it kind of gets tricky.
Right. When you're doing it to appease and to set a presence for other people. And you're right. There's a difference between walking in the room and appearing as you have authority, and really walking into a room and not saying a word, and being able to capture that entire room. And everybody in that room, they don't know, they may not be able to put their finger on what you're carrying, but they know you're carrying something. They may not know who you are, but they know you belong to somebody. Right? They don't know, but and God knows. And that's the difference between walking in authority and walking in as you were peering, to with that authority. It's a different shift. Okay, Rainbow. So I gotta ask, what made you publish the devotional? We gotta pivot a little bit, but what made you publish the devotional?
So I wrote that book, like coming out of one of the really most toughest seasons of my life. And I just knew that I was supposed to share my journey and that it was bigger than me. And so, I just started writing. I put myself on a schedule. I had, certain amounts of writing that I had to get done every week. And then I published it because I knew that there were people who needed to hear me speak authentically about some of the things that I had experienced. And so it's not like I'm in the book, it's not like a tell-all, but you can read something and know when somebody's speaking from their own experience, right? And I was able to talk about, this is how I know God is real, right? This is how I know that all things really do work together for those of us who love God, right?
Right.
And all according to his will, because I've seen it in my life. And the book now at this point, it's been out probably 5 years, but the greatest blessings I receive from this book is when I'm at that prison and, women will tell me, I had given up hope, but now I'm praying again. I was done with God. I wasn't going to do anything else in that space, but now I'm reminded, like, he sees me. I am an empowered woman. Or just people in general, when they say, hey, your devotional really blessed me today. The prayer is something I try to keep in front of me. So I think we all know sometimes our assignments are bigger than us. I didn't necessarily say, oh, I'm just gonna, put this book out, and it's scary, right? You've got a book, but it's been a good journey.
I love it. I love it.
That is awesome. And actually, I'm about to make another pivot because I was waiting for the opportunity to do this, but then you said it. So we have a segment in the show called "I Know God Is Real Because." Right. Mm-hmm. So how about you share with us why or how you know God is real?
I mean, so many things. I could take up 5 hours, right, on this call. But, one real instance that I always think about is, I got ready to purchase a home and just, I heard the Holy Spirit say, it's time for you to move from here. And I'm like, okay, well, where am I going? Right.
Wow.
And there were just so many things that fell in place. I had been going to the same Bible study for over a year, sitting in the same spot, never had a conversation with the woman in front of me. After I heard that in my spirit, we got introduced through some sort of ministry. And she's like, oh, I'm such and such. Do you know anybody who needs a realtor? So there was the realtor. And then we started meeting with the broker, and it was just me and my son. And it was like, okay, well, how is this going to work? And, step by step, God led me to the house where I was supposed to be. And if you would have looked at things on paper, there's no way that we would have ended up here. But, even down to the offer process, I had said to my realtor, I said, hey, I had already kind of written out this note. And I'm like, I also want to send her a picture of me and my son. And she's like, oh no, we don't do that, because you never know who the person is. They may not like certain types of people. We just don't do it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've never purchased the house. And immediately I heard the Holy Spirit say, you need to send the picture. So I called her back and I'm like, I know you think I'm crazy. I feel crazy, but I really need you to send that picture. So within 2 hours, she called back, and I had just a very specific list. I said, it was a seller's market. So they were telling me I had to offer $10,000 over asking price. I'm like, this is what I can afford. I want her to pay for all of my closing costs. I don't want to come out of pocket. And the agent and the broker were like, you're nuts. Nobody's going to do that. But she called me back in 2 hours. She said, she's going to do everything you asked for. She's not going to have you go over the asking price. And she said her agent wanted me to tell you that there was your offer and a cash offer on the table for more, but she had prayed about who she wanted in her home. And when she saw your picture, she knew that it was supposed to go to you. So, I mean, if that's not real, it was like, then I'm like, okay. And it's been great ever since, right? And that was when, people talk about how sometimes you feel crazy when you listen to what God is saying to you. And just imagine if I would have said, okay, I'm not going to send the picture, right? She would have went with that offer, and I never would have been in the home that I'm in. So that was when I kind of started really paying attention to sometimes what God tells you will make you look and feel crazy, but it's for a big purpose and something greater than we know.
Wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That is,
and you spoke to obedience, right? Because you were obedient.
Yeah.
You received what God had for you.
And I was so thankful because, I wanted this small little condo, no backyard. I was so ready to go purchase this. And God was like, that's not what I have. I was just impatient in that process. And, now we have an all brick home. Like I can look at my manifestation journal from a year prior, and like 8 of the 15 things that I put in there, we have a full creek in our backyard. My son has a huge front and backyard. So God is faithful.
He is so freaking faithful. Yeah. It's amazing. And I like the fact, like, what do you guys think about ownership? Because you guys know I'm huge when it comes to ownership in our community. And us being able to purchase things to leave a legacy for our children. Mm-hmm. So how important do you guys think ownership is when it comes to being able to leave that legacy?
I think it's really important. I actually think it's super critical, but I also think that, particularly in the African-American, Black, Brown community, there's sometimes like this misconception that it's so hard and it's so unattainable. And I think we have to do a better job of getting people in front of resources when they're not sure of where to go, and making sure they're aware that there are programs to help if you don't have this huge chunk of money, and really just educating people so that they understand, it seems comfortable when you think about paying rent, right? And sometimes, don't get me wrong, renting is how you have to go for a season, but I don't think people understand, the equity and how it's really not as hard to maintain this ownership. And to your point, that's stuff that can be passed down to your children or, whoever. And so I'm like you, I hope we see more ownership because I think it's very, very important.
It's super important. But we're going to take a quick break. I want to, stay on this legacy and ownership for just a moment when we come right back. So guys, we'll be right back. We're going to hear from our sponsors. Okay. Well, we'll pause. We'll keep rolling. We'll keep rolling with the conversation, guys. So,
life is better when you are living on purpose, but many times we get stuck in the rat race and in the mundane task of our day-to-day lives, causing most to lose sight of their purpose. That's why certified life coach, inner healer, and business strategist LaFlower Bowie is here to help you get calibrated to your calling through proven systems, techniques, and resources. Order a copy of her book, Principles to Reposition, to assist you with your journey, or schedule a free clarity session to kickstart the journey. After these sessions, clients have stated they found clarity and opened their eyes to things they had long forgotten. So get social and follow LaFlower on all social media platforms at LaFlower Bowie. And don't forget to mention Stunner Radio sent you.
Love it, love it. Hey guys, welcome back to this week's episode of Uncommon Faith, where we are chatting with a Rainbow Huff out of Nashville, Tennessee. Tonight we've been talking about a lot of things. We've been talking about worthiness, mindset, and now we're talking about legacy through ownership. And so Rainbow said that she knows that God is real because of how she got in her house, guys. And I was just thinking while we're on break, I was like, that's so similar to the testimony that Marcus and I had when we purchased our house. You know, we have been looking for years and years, and all of a sudden he was like, right now we're going to go put a deposit down on this new community they're building. I was like, what? Because, you know, we have this XL family, so we have been looking for a large enough house to fit us, but still within our budget. And God just moved. And guys, I tell you, when we went and put the money down on the house, $1,000 earnest money down on the house, it was a gentleman there. I remember this gentleman. He was a tall, older white guy. He had gray hair, gray beard. We filled out all the paperwork. Why did we come back 2 weeks later and that guy was nowhere to be found? They were like, who? Wow. Who are you talking about? I'm like, the guy. They're like, no. And because our credit wasn't even in a point of where it should have been in order to even pre-qualify. And we picked out a lot, we picked out a floor plan, and I'm telling you, a few weeks later, we gave him $1,000, and then he's like, you guys have X amount of time. Here's a guy, call him, go get your, work on your credit. And I'm telling you, when we went back a couple weeks later, they were like, who? But we had already signed for the lot, picked out the plan, and they had our money, and it was game on from there. So God is so real. Yeah. So guys,
really quickly on that, LaFlower, when you said that, it kind of just hit me. You said that we hadn't been pre-qualified, but you really were. And I think
Come on, Rainbow.
I think that sometimes we are so used to worldly interactions, right? And we need a bank to give us approval. We need a broker to approve us. But when God says yes, and it's your time, the acceleration, the activation, the access, it's all ours, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we have to get out of this worldly view and say, I've already been pre-qualified in the spirit. So what I'm walking into is mine because I've already been confirmed as, worthy of this, right?
You better say that whole word.
About to make me shout up in here.
I know. About to make me run around this whole room. The whole room. To do a lap or two. But You're so right. You're so right, because we do get caught up sometimes into worrying about culture, worried about fitting in, worried about meeting all the check boxes. I went through that with my career at one company, where I walked in the door making 30-something thousand and walked out damn near at 6 figures. And I was just like, wow, Lord, like, how did that even happen? But you're right. It's because I was already qualified in the spirit to walk through those doors, even though I'm a college dropout and, all of that stuff. God had already ordained me to do it.
That's
and
right.
I'm telling you guys, sometimes people that are, it's amazing that sometimes people speak and they see things in us. And that's why community is so important, right? That's why fellowship is so important. And this is one of my I know God is real testimonies real quick. And so at this company where God had just, amazing acceleration, Regina can tell you. She's like, you got another promotion? Anyways, so guys, the CFO, he was, the company had been acquired. The CFO, he was leaving. He was going to start another company, and the word on the around the company was that I was going to go into this major leadership position that I wasn't qualified for. And so outside in the parking lot one day, he was walking into the building, and I was walking out. Now, with him being the CFO, I really didn't have a lot of communication with him. At that point, I was in a leadership position, but maybe a mid-level leadership position, but not to the point where I was able to sit in board meetings and executive meetings and things. And he stopped me in the parking lot, and he said, his name was Brian Bergeron. I remember this to this day. Almost brings back tears in my eyes. And he says, LaFlower, he says, you have everything that you need in order to be successful in this next journey. And he says, don't allow any of these men to make you think that you cannot do this. And that was it. And that was the last time I seen him. And like I said, that was probably maybe the 10th time I had spoken to him in a matter of years that we had worked together. So Rainbow, I just wanted to, just give total confirmation to that word, that's so true, that sometimes we worry about the qualifications of man and in this world that we live in. And we sometimes we take ourselves out of the race, right? We pull ourselves out before we can even give God room to move. Because when God told you to leave, you gave God room to move, right? Yeah. When God told Marcus to go put that money down, we gave God room to move. And Regina, I know you got testimonies on testimonies on testimonies on how you may be applying for one position and God opens the door and say, no, you certified, you right here, right? So amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, y'all. So we're going to transition into the last segment of the show. And Rainbow, this is called our sister check.
Okay. Let me get ready.
Yeah, get ready. So the sister check, guys, is a sister check is basically a real conversation that you can have with someone who you consider a sister, right? And I think that we have to be able to have these courageous conversations with each other. Because if we don't check ourselves, if we don't check each other, then sometimes we're so deep into sometimes the mess that we're in and some of the situations that we're in that we can't see nor think clearly. Like, I know I've been in some relationships, with drug dealers, and I'm not going to tell y'all the testimony tonight, but don't judge me, people. Don't come for me in the comments. But I've been in some relationships with some people, and my eyes were so blinded and clouded by what I thought was love that, I couldn't see. I lost sight of my truth meter was off. I'll say it like that. Sometimes our truth meter gets off. So that's what a sister check is somebody that we're close enough that we have them in our inner circle. And they know that when we have these conversations with them, Rainbow, that it's coming out of love and we're not coming for them. So the topic for tonight is OnlyFans, right? So if you had a sister friend who was, showing different views of herself, on OnlyFans and generating income, would you give her a sister check?
Why don't you share for some people what OnlyFans is? Because I don't know if everybody in the audience understands what OnlyFans is.
You're right. So guys, OnlyFans, it's a great platform, but what I've come to realize is that there are basically you can offer like a pay per experience based on your tool, based on your skill set. Like I've seen people do cooking, offer private cooking lessons on there. I've seen, artists do things on there. But for most of the teenagers, like my young adult kids, they know it for, a rather rated R experience. I'll say an X-rated experience. Hopefully I don't get dinged for saying that word. But yeah, so if you had a sister friend who was generating income like that, she's like, this is easy money. Would you like, girlfriend, go? run it up. Or would you have a conversation with her to like a seek to understand conversation with her?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always seeking to understand, and not that there's any judgment there, but you talked about being in relationships and messes. Sometimes the most messy relationship we're in is the one with ourselves, right? And I've been there. That's why I raised my hand, because Lord knows. What I've learned in this last year, so let me answer it like this. I don't know if this is going to answer your question, is I have learned to stay in my lane. So would I maybe offer my thoughts? Possibly. But I think that I've learned to, some people don't want to hear what you say, period. Even if it is to help them. There are some people who are really, really stuck on, this is what I'm going to do. I don't care about what you're saying. So I may, but I wouldn't do it to the point to where I was going to lose sleep or it was going to make me stressed out and lose all my energy. Because I've been there and I've done that. And it's like, and I think too, I mean, everybody's journey is different. Now, if it's one of those things where like you have all these other things going and people are like talking about that, it may just be a gut check. Like, hey, are you really good with this? Because you've got these two different images that are out there. Like, but especially if I'm not going to give you the money you making on OnlyFans, because I hear it's a lot of money you can make,
It is.
I mean, I would probably have that, like, are you really comfortable with that? But I wouldn't try to sort of move anybody outside of their lane into mine, because I've just learned it's like a waste of energy,
I got you. Yeah. Gina, what about you?
I mean, I'm in total agreement with Rainbow. I mean, for me, the conversation would come from a point of trying to get understanding. Right. And what is your goal here, and what are you trying to do? I just just looking to understand it. And if anything comes to me to say after that, then so be it. But I'm with Rainbow. I'm not supposed to lose any sleep over it. I'm like, it's your life, your choices, and that's that. And unless I'm say or do something different, then
yeah. And I think you never know what anybody's circumstance is, right? And I do believe that some people are just more comfortable with their bodies and that type of, exposure, if you will. And, I mean,
you're right.
Right? You have to do what's best for you. So
I totally understand. Totally. And for me, it would be that conversation too of a seeking to understand, to see if they're doing it, from an income perspective. Like, because if this is my sister, then I'm thinking of her from a holistic point of view. I'm thinking of, okay, your actions are going to lead you, like, what's going to come out of this the next 5 to 10 years from now? How is this going to impact your children? Because if you're that close to me, then I care about your children. I care about, the things that's going on. So if this was a sister that was in corporate America and she was doing this, maybe because she was laid off or something like that, I would still, bring these things up to, because right now in corporate America, they checking everything.
They are 100%.
Checking everything.
Girls and young adults, I tell them that all the time. Be careful what you're putting on your social media, because recruiters are looking at your lines. They are looking at what's on your page. They are looking at what you subscribe to. And I praise God that I only had MySpace for real when I was coming up, because listen, God's grace is sufficient.
You had your song playing when everybody gave me your page.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, people really pay attention to that. So
they do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we check everything.
Oh yeah,
you do. And so that would be my biggest thing. It's like, I'm cool if that's what you want to do. I may not. That's you. Like you said, I'm gonna stay in my lane. But as a sister, it's like I want to make sure that I'm asking you some thought-provoking questions that may just plant the seed for you. I'm not gonna point the finger and say, oh, you need to stop. But have you thought about your kids? Have you thought about, if you do have a son, what if one of your son's friends sees you on there? how is that going to make your children feel? Because there's a lot of ways that we can make money, right? And just remind her, of the impact. Because I think right now, in speaking with my young adult children, a lot of the mindset is just for today.
Oh,
that's right.
Even
Absolutely.
more so than when I was in my 20s and late teens. It's all about today. I'm about to make this money today.
Right.
I don't even know if I'm going to live or how I'm going, because they think 30 is like 80.
Yeah, and I blame social media for a lot of that living for today, like you wake up and you see these people who are, they have perfect bodies and they live these glamorous lifestyles. And especially for younger children and adults, they're seeing that and they're like, oh, I want that. But that is just, I don't know if you guys have heard, what is it? The Brain, something on Netflix. But it kind of talks about some of those things and about how you see this perfect image, but you have no idea what the person's life is on the back end of that image. And so I think some of that is just feeling like I have to keep up with what I'm seeing, but that's like chasing perfection, right? And that doesn't exist. And so
right.
I'm thankful to have all of the access that the young adults have now to social media, because I feel like we would have really missed out on a lot coming up, because we would have been focused on what's happening in spaces that are outside of our control. So I think social media has a lot to do with that type of mindset.
It definitely plays a big part, because you think about the before, if you wanted to use your body to make money, you may have had to take some real pictures where it was an actual picture. You may have had to be in a magazine, or, you may have been in a movie, a real movie or a TV show. But now with social media, it's, you take a picture, you can alter your picture, do all different things to it, and you build followers, so it's a very it's a pseudo effect when it comes to our relationships and things like that, when we have all these followers and fans and things like that. But on the backside, a lot of, even with my coaching clients, they feel empty, right? Because they're like, I get all the likes, or this and this picture didn't get this many likes, or this person liked this one and they didn't like that one. I'm like, and they literally try to, go crazy sometimes trying to figure out, okay, why am I not being liked, or why did my analytics go down? And so you're totally right. It does play a part. But yeah, I think, and also to any parents out there, this is a learning moment. If you didn't know what OnlyFans is, I challenge you to check it out, because I'm pretty sure if you have a teenager, they know what OnlyFans is. And so, sometimes I think we can, us as believers, we can be focused so much on being righteous and being holy, that we just completely want to remove ourselves out of the world. We want to put blinders on to the world that we live in, right? But we forget that our kids are actively navigating through these things. And so we can't just completely remove ourselves and, and not pay attention to some of the trends and things that are going on. What do you guys think about that? When, have you guys ever been, let me just ask, have you ever been caught off with your kids? Like, how did you know that? Did you, even with me listen to the radio sometimes, I'll see my 6-year-old, I'm like, how do you know these lyrics?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think too, this is something else. I don't know if I can say this on the radio show, so I'll ask for forgiveness later. But studies show that most children are exposed to porn by the age of 9, and a lot of the times it's because they're riding school buses and older kids are showing them. So I think it's important that we have those realistic conversations, and we don't live in this fairy tale world that says, oh, I'm going to keep my kid in a bubble, because that's just not possible. Kids are having cell phones at 7, 8, 9 years old. The internet is a dark and scary place. And so I think we do have to use godly wisdom and discernment and make sure we're paying attention to what's right in front of us. I would rather my son hear things from me than be miseducated by others who, have come up with their own concepts or stories about what is or what isn't. So
yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And you're totally right. Even, I knew the statistic, but when I had conversations with my son, who's, 18 now, when we started talking about things that he went through in elementary school and middle school, it was so much peer pressure to look. He was like, Mom, I didn't want to look at some of the stuff that they were showing me on their phones, because my kids didn't have, phones when they were in, elementary and middle school and things like that. But he said it was so much peer pressure to look. And if you didn't look, then you'll be labeled.
Yeah.
As something else. So he's like, do I go with this, like that we're being labeled as this, or do I just go ahead and look so they don't think anything bad of me? It's like, it's so much that these kids are going through right now.
Yeah. And it's very scary. It's actually pretty terrifying, because my son is 8, right? And there's already, I've already seen instances where there's that pressure to fit in. But, my constant prayer is that he has such an intimate relationship with the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, and God, his Father, that he's comfortable and settled in his spirit when these fools, right, these crazy concepts come up and are presented to him, because it's hard, right? We're fleshly beings. We want to be liked. We want to fit in. We don't want to feel like we're on the outskirts, but it's a terrifying thought. It's like,
it's definitely terrifying. And that's another thing that my son went through, because he knows that he's set apart. He knows that he's different, right? And it would just hurt me so much to see him act out of character, and because he just wanted to. He's like, sometimes I just want to be normal. Sometimes I just want to blend in. I don't want to sometimes I don't want to have to speak up for what's right all the time. But it's like that burning flame that's inside of him causes him to want to protect others and to do the right thing. But you're right. It's so much pressure on these kids. And it is kind of scary to know that, because they may have an intimate relationship with God, or because they may even these days, because you even call on the name of Jesus, that you're going to be, you're going to have a certain label put on you.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but we know it. Regina, I've heard you on calls. I know how powerful your anointing is. LaFlower, I know about you. And so we felt those same things, right? Sometimes we don't want to do what's right, and be the bigger person and, love like Jesus. You want to be like, no, I don't want to fool with you, period, right? So I think it's just harder for our kids, right? Because they haven't lived this life as long as we have. But, I think that's why we have those transparent conversations now, and just keep those prayers coming, because we know we're only sitting here today because somebody's grandmama or mama or auntie or granddaddy was praying for us. So
absolutely. And that's why I like to have these sister checks, because I think almost at the end of every sister check, it's really about us, about those relationships and identifying those wounds, any unworthiness, or because a lot of times when we're doing things that impact us, in so many different ways, in a negative way, it could be somebody didn't have that courageous conversation with you, and it may have been as you were growing up, when you were a child. So we definitely have to continue to have these conversations with each other as sisters, and definitely a parent to child. And I know that we're huge advocates on, if our kids gonna hear about it, they're gonna hear about it from us, right? And we definitely have to be the first ones to talk about it, because I know my kids were watching YouTube, and I'm like, okay, YouTube cool, but I don't want them, looking at all the commercials and stuff like that. Then the little scary faced lady came on YouTube talking to kids. I was like,
yeah, that was crazy. That was so crazy. And it's like, you try to be safe. That was kids YouTube. That wasn't even just YouTube. That was kids YouTube.
Right.
Which was supposed to be the safest place for kids. And I forgot her name, something with an M, but it's like, where are our kids safe? So I think it's just equipping them with the right tools. I do want to say, when you were talking about that, LaFlower, the book that we read that talked about the orphan spirit, what was that called? The Esther Anointing. That's such a good book, Right. And I think for anybody who's even thinking about, past seasons of unworthiness or feeling like, you have to kind of move a different way, I would recommend that book. Because I think it's focused on women, but I do think even men could gain some really insightful tools and information from that.
Absolutely. You reminded me where we may have to start an Uncommon Faith book club, y'all. Put it in the comments. Let us know if that's something that we are starting our mighty network community. And I guess this is a great segue into talking about our very first fast that we are going to be doing with the Uncommon Faith community. For those of you that know me in the ministry that Gina and I work with, we normally do a beautifully broken fast at the end of every year, transitioning, over into the new year. We do it in December so that we can be prepared to take off. But now God is speaking. He's like, do a fast going into Pentecost, that upper room experience, because God is getting ready to do some amazing things in our lives, for our lives. So get ready, as the amazing order, TD Jakes would say, right? Let's see. So here's the official flyer. I'm super, hopefully you guys can see it. It may pop up. There it is. So there's the flyer. You guys go to Uncommon Faith Fast. You can pre-register. Registration stuff will go out towards the end of the week as we kick it off next week on May 3rd. So again, Uncommon Faith Fast for you guys to check that out. And so I'm super excited. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Rainbow, really quick, let everybody know, where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and any, words of encouragement that you would give anybody, to really be able to walk this uncommon faith lifestyle.
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is Rainbow is her name. My Facebook is Rainbow Huff. My business website is purposeconnections.com. And I would say the encouragement is, you talk about uncommon faith, there's going to be some uncommon things that, you're led to. You may be in an uncommon season, but I would say even when you can't trace God, trust God, right? I think that some of our journeys are, so much bigger and broader and better than we can imagine, but you can't cut short the process. And so got to go through the process, but on the other side of that, God has beautiful things waiting. I've seen it in my own life. I know the two of you have seen it. So I would say just, keep walking in faith, right? Do not grow weary in well doing, because there is a reward if we don't give up. So.
Yes, Lord.
Giving us a whole little mini sermon. I love it.
Yes,
I love it. Regina, what you got for the people tonight?
Well, what do I have? Wow, I'm kind of feeling like the audience today. I can't lie. I'm just sitting here soaking all this up. Like this has been good. Some good talking. But I really, felt moved when we talked about just what God will do for us when we, walk in obedience and listen to the Spirit and move when He say move or don't move. And then dealing with these children, y'all, it's just really, really, there's a heaviness when it comes to the things that our kids are dealing with right now and what they're faced with. So as parents, I just say we have to be diligent to take the time to check out what they're doing and check their devices and different things like that, and make sure we know who their friends are, who they are calling friends, who's in their circles, who's influencing our children.
Wow, so much. Yeah. I just feel the Spirit so heavy, and it's just like we definitely have to do that. We have to walk in authority. That's my takeaway from tonight. We got to walk in authority. I'll never forget when me and Rainbow crushed the head of that serpent in the desert. That was bananas. It was so awesome, right? But we say that phrase, as just a cliche thing, but God literally gives us the power and authority. We have through our words. It's like we can call things and we can speak things and we can, sometimes cause those winds and storms to stop in our lives and those demons from attacking us, right? But we have to walk in authority. And Rainbow, one of the things that we're going to do, me and Regina already, we mentioned it on a previous show, we're going to talk about the courts of heaven. And and how we go back and how we get we regain the access to our lives, because so many times we got all these serpents around us because we've made agreements and we've given the enemy access to our lives, right? And so we have to get in a position where we understand what we've done, who we connected to, soul ties, thank you, Jesus, and so that we can definitely crush the heads of these serpents and break these soul ties and cause order to fall down back into our lives. But I'm not gonna start preaching because
not too late.
That's
when you started talking about them courts.
You're gonna have to come back and join us so we can show people how to open the courts of heaven and to really cause order to fall down back into your life, to realign things that are in heaven so they fall down in earth. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Uncommon Faith. Rainbow, I'm so grateful for you, girl. Regina, you know what it is.
So much love
for
you, Rainbow.
I'm gonna have to get to Tennessee. All right, guys. Grace and peace to everybody. Good night.
Grace and peace.